John Cena, he did an interview with Shannon Sharp where he says that the WWE still owns his name and actually makes money off his movies and other projects. Do you feel that some of these WWE contracts are somewhat predatory to do something like this? The fact that he's no longer wrestling and he's completely shifted careers, but they're still making money off his name, seems a bit crazy.
Well, I think the world is shifting too. You're starting to see all these big lawsuits with the NFL and Sunday Ticket, and then the UFC just recently got hammered with a big lawsuit. So I think the intellectual properties and things of that nature are now starting to turn more favorable towards the athlete. So you're starting to see a lot of that change. I've never really agreed with that, and that's why whenever I went into pro wrestling, I owned my name. I mean, I literally owned Ken Shamrock. I wasn't going to give that up. But when these guys go in there, they all are basically built by Vince McMahon. He has built their character, and they have allowed him to build their character. So when you do that, that's a business proposition that you agreed to.
Well, right, because The Rock just this February got his name back. After all these years, he finally got the IP rights back to his name, and think about how much money he has and the influence he has, but they held on to it. So was that part of your negotiation? Did you have to negotiate your name rights at the beginning, and they wanted to take them?
Absolutely. When I came in, I was known as the world's most dangerous man, Ken Shamrock. Obviously, the Rock thing I carved out in there until later on, right? But those were all things that I went in with an agent and carved out to make sure that I own my intellectual property. A lot of these guys, like John Cena and some of them other ones, had no intellectual property. They were nobodies when they came in. And so when they sat down with Vince and the organization there, they didn't negotiate those things and carve out their rights for their intellectual property. They gave them up. And that's why they're in the position that they're in.
I mean, did you ever maintain a relationship with Vince over the years? Not at all.
No, even when I was there, I never really had communication with him. I dealt with other people. Vince was working with, obviously the top guys, and I was somewhat in the mid card, so I never really got to sit down and really talk with him other than in the beginning.
Yeah, I remember I interviewed New Jack. Rest in peace, by the way. Did you ever meet him?
A few times, yeah.
A few times. He was crazy in real life.
Yeah.
That was real life crazy. Did you see some of those? Remember when he, 40 feet in the air, jumped down onto the tables, like that slam, like cutting his
coming
forehead,
out through his face. Yeah.
Whew. Would you say that's the most intense wrestler of all time in terms of just sacrificing everything in that ring?
You mean like Mankind?
Yeah.
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 Yeah. There's the non-thought of his physical health was just, it was crazy to see him put his body through that stuff.
Yeah.
There was no fear. And I mean, there's like myself and other people that have no fear about going in and fighting because you're going in there and you're protecting yourself.
Yeah,
his fear was different. Like he wanted things to happen to him.
Yeah.
And he felt like that made him tough.
Yeah.
That made people like him, which was sad because you shouldn't have to put yourself through those kinds of things for people to like you or for you to get over.
I remember in our interview, he said Vince McMahon's a piece of shit. Every time a wrestler dies, he gets away with it.
Who said that?
New Jack. Do you feel that Vince really should take any responsibility for all the wrestlers that have died over the years? Or do you think that these are grown men, they make their own decisions, he gives them a platform and that's it?
Well, I think it's probably 50-50.
Huh.
I think that, Vince as a human being, or at least if it was me, I would feel some sort of way. And wanted to try to figure out how I can make it better, right? And that just didn't happen, right? But that doesn't make him wrong. That's just being a person, a human being that cares. That you when these things were starting to happen, that you would start to feel almost like that's like you're responsible. I mean, I would, right? Even though you're not, but you would just feel that way because it's your organization and things are happening and it's not good. But again, I think that's more of a personal thing. But if you're looking at it out from 30,000 feet up and looking at it, he bears no responsibility, right? I think it's just more of that human nature is, why don't you feel responsible? That type of thing. But as far as law, or as far as that, from that standpoint, he bears no responsibility. These are personal choices that maybe because of the way this environment is causes them to do that. But Vince isn't making those decisions for them. These are things that they're doing to themselves on their own.
I mean, if you were the president of WWE and you took Vince's job, what would you do differently that he did not do throughout his tenure?
Oh, I'm not even going to tackle that because I don't know. I'm not in it enough to know what is happening. Like, I don't even know when all these things are being said. I don't know where that responsibility falls on Vince. As much as everybody's saying that, I don't know. I mean, I can hear what people are saying, but it's hearsay from what people are saying. I don't know for sure if all these things that are said are true. I mean, I'm just going off what people are saying. So I really wouldn't know where to start unless I was actually plugged into it.
Well, you and Chris Benoit, you guys were in the ring together. He died of suicide in 2007. How shocked were you when you heard that?
Never saw that coming. I mean, I guess people that were closer to him probably did, but everything that I knew of him, I thought he was a stable human being. I really did. I never saw that coming.
I mean, in retrospect, what do you think contributed to it?
You know, again, it's speculation. You know, I hear things, you know. It's almost like whether it's in the NFL or basketball, baseball, it seems like there's schedules are rigorous. You're asked to do a lot of things. You get towards the end of your career, it's a natural thing anyways, even if you're not locked up on drugs or painkillers or alcohol or whatever it is, it's still a huge letdown without any of that stuff. And here all of a sudden you're this $1 million man and everybody wants a piece of you, to where once you're gone, nobody cares. Like, you don't have that demand anymore. And you feel like you're a piece of crap. Like, you don't feel like important anymore, which is not true, but you're just not getting what you used to get. And so it plays there's a mental effect on you. And if you're drinking and if you're doing drugs and if you're doing painkillers, you're doing all these things, when you come down off of that stuff, it puts you even in a badder position to where you might do something stupid to yourself or to others because you're not in your right mind. So again, I know there's always this thing about pointing the finger one way or another, but there's so many things involved that happen to cause these kinds of things, like with Chris Benoit.
I mean, do you know any ex-WWE guys who are in their 50s, 60s, who don't have serious health problems, who are in generally good health as a typical 50-year-old? Or do all of them have serious permanent injuries from doing the sport?
Yeah, all of them do. All of them do. And not even just, physical issues, they have mental issues because they've dedicated their life to something that isn't real. Like, even fighting, when it comes to the world we live in, isn't real. We don't keep that. There's a world out there we have to live. Sooner or later, we're going to be what is real, and that's the world, right? We're not going to be in this shell and everything taken care of and health, and you're going to be cut loose somewhere, right?
Yeah.
So it's not real. And so I think it's when those things, the physical injuries and all the things that happen to you, when you get done with that, now all of a sudden you're left to deal with those things on your own.